The sound of expensive leather shoes on marble floors echoed through the nearly empty church as James Crawford approached the altar where a woman in a white wedding dress stood frozen in shock. He had been driving past when he noticed the unusual scene: wedding guests streaming out of the church with confused and sympathetic expressions, leaving behind what was clearly supposed to be a bride on her wedding day. James paused in the back pew, watching as the beautiful African-American woman at the altar struggled to maintain her composure while those around her whispered urgently. Her maid of honor, a woman in a burgundy dress, looked as devastated as the bride herself. Something was very wrong here, and James found himself unable to simply walk away. "Where is he?" the bride whispered, her voice carrying clearly in the acoustics of the church. Her hands were shaking as she clutched her bouquet, and even from a distance, James could see the tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "I don't know, Sophia," the maid of honor replied, her voice breaking. "He was here this morning during the rehearsal. He seemed fine, excited even." "Sophia." James filed the name away as he watched the scene unfold with growing horror. Someone had abandoned this woman Sophia on what should have been the happiest day of her life. The priest approached them with gentle sympathy. "My dear, perhaps we should move to the back room." The guests. But Sophia couldn't seem to move. She stood there in her pristine white dress, looking like a statue of heartbreak as the reality of her situation sank in. James had seen enough devastation in his business dealings to recognize when someone's world was falling apart, and this woman's world was crumbling in real time. A young man in a rumpled tuxedo rushed back into the church, his face flushed with panic. "I've called him 20 times. His phone goes straight to voicemail. I drove to his apartment, but his car is gone. Sophia, I'm so sorry." James felt a surge of anger on behalf of this stranger. What kind of man abandoned someone at the altar? What kind of coward left a woman standing in a wedding dress without even the courtesy of an explanation? Did he say anything? Sophia's voice was barely audible now. "Yesterday, this morning, anything at all?" The young man shook his head miserably. "Nothing." He was nervous, sure, but every groom is nervous. "He talked about the honeymoon, about starting your new life together." "I swear, Sophia, he gave no sign that he was planning to run away." "Run away." The words hit the church like a physical blow, and James watched as Sophia's face went completely white. The remaining guests began to leave in small groups, their whispered conversations floating through the air like daggers. Poor thing. How could he just leave her like that? Something must have happened. Maybe it's for the best. James clenched his fists at the last comment. How could anyone think this humiliation was for the best? This woman Sophia was clearly devastated, her entire future ripped away in a single morning. An older woman who must have been Sophia's mother rushed to her side. "Oh, sweetheart. Let's get you out of this dress. Let's go home." "I can't go there," Sophia said, her voice hollow with shock. "I can't face that apartment. All our things together, the wedding gifts we haven't even opened yet." James could see the full scope of the disaster now. This wasn't just a wedding that had been called off, this was a complete life implosion. Sophia was stranded, heartbroken, and apparently homeless in a single devastating blow. The maid of honor squeezed Sophia's hand. "You can stay with me as long as you need. We'll figure this out." But James could see that even her friend's offer of help wasn't enough to pierce through Sophia's shock and despair. She looked lost, adrift, like someone whose anchor had been cut away without warning. As the church continued to empty, James found himself stepping forward. He wasn't sure what he intended to do or say, but something about this woman's dignity in the face of such humiliation compelled him to act. The photographer was packing up her equipment with obvious discomfort. "I'm so sorry, dear. Should I just pack up?" Sophia nodded numbly, unable to speak. James could see that she was holding herself together through sheer force of will, but that will was fracturing with each passing moment. Finally, the church was empty except for Sophia, her maid of honor, her parents, and James himself, still standing uncertainly in the back. The silence was deafening, not the expectant hush of a ceremony about to begin, but the hollow quiet of dreams that had died. "Why?" Sophia whispered to the empty air. "Why today? Why like this?" That was when James made his decision. He couldn't stand by and watch this woman's devastation without offering help. He had resources, influence, the ability to make a difference in someone's life. And something about Sophia's grace under such impossible circumstances told him she was worth helping. He walked down the aisle, his footsteps loud in the silence. Sophia's family looked up in surprise as he approached, but he kept his eyes on the bride herself. "Excuse me," he said gently, stopping a respectful distance away. "I don't mean to intrude, but I couldn't help but notice that you seem to be in need of assistance. Sophia looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes, clearly confused by the appearance of this well-dressed stranger. I'm sorry, do I know you? My name is James Crawford, he said, offering a slight bow. And I was wondering if perhaps we might speak privately for a moment. The maid of honor stepped protectively closer to Sophia. Who are you? What do you want? James could understand their suspicion, but he pressed on. I'm someone who believes that when life deals us an unexpected blow, we should look for unexpected solutions. He looked directly at Sophia. I have a proposition that might interest you. Sophia stared at him as if he had appeared from another planet. A proposition? A way for you to start over immediately with dignity and purpose, James said carefully. But first, you should know that whatever has happened here today, it's not a reflection of your worth. Any man who would abandon you at the altar is a fool who doesn't deserve you. For the first time since he had entered the church, James saw a flicker of something other than devastation in Sophia's eyes. Curiosity, perhaps, or just surprise at his unexpected appearance and words. I think, he said gently, that you and I should have a conversation about turning this worst day of your life into the first day of something much better. 3 hours later, Sophia sat alone in the small garden behind the church. Her wedding dress was wrinkled and stained with tears, her carefully styled hair had fallen loose around her shoulders, and her makeup was streaked down her cheeks. Rebecca and her parents had begged her to come home with them, but she had insisted she needed time alone to think. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the garden. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was supposed to be at her reception right now, dancing with her new husband, surrounded by friends and family celebrating their love. Instead, she was sitting on a stone bench, wondering how her life had fallen apart so completely in a single day. She heard footsteps on the gravel path and looked up, expecting to see Rebecca returning to check on her. Instead, she saw a tall man in an expensive suit walking toward her. He was handsome in a refined way, with dark hair and kind eyes, but she had never seen him before. Excuse me, he said gently, stopping a respectful distance away. I don't mean to intrude, but are you all right? Sophia almost laughed at the question. All right? She was about as far from all right as a person could be. But something in his voice, a genuine concern rather than mere politeness, made her look at him more carefully. I'm fine, she lied, her voice hoarse from crying. The man studied her for a moment, taking in her wedding dress and obvious distress. I'm James Crawford. I was driving by and saw you here. You look like you might need help. James Crawford, she repeated, the name sounding familiar. Then it clicked. The businessman? Crawford Industries? He nodded, looking slightly uncomfortable with the recognition. Yes. But right now I'm just someone who noticed that you seem to be having the worst day of your life. Despite everything, Sophia felt a small smile tug at the corner of her mouth. That's probably the most accurate thing anyone has said to me today. James stepped closer, his expression gentle. Do you have somewhere to go? Someone to call? The simple questions opened the floodgates again, and fresh tears began to fall. I was supposed to get married today, she said, her voice breaking. But my fiancé, he just left. He didn't show up. I don't understand why. James's face softened with sympathy. I'm so sorry. That's unforgivable. Everyone keeps saying it's for the best, Sophia continued, the words pouring out of her. But how can it be for the best? I loved him. I thought he loved me. We had plans, a whole life mapped out together. And now I have nothing. No job, no home that doesn't have his things in it, no future that makes sense anymore. James sat down on the bench beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. What's your name? Sophia. Sophia Bennett. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. You're a complete stranger. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger, James said quietly. And for what it's worth, any man who would abandon you on your wedding day is a fool who doesn't deserve you. Something in his tone made Sophia look at him more closely. There was a sadness in his eyes that matched her own, a loneliness that spoke of his own disappointments. You sound like you know something about being disappointed by people, she said. James was quiet for a moment, then nodded. My business partner and best friend betrayed me last year. Stole clients, spread lies about me, tried to destroy everything I'd worked for. I thought I knew him, thought our friendship meant something. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Sophia said, meaning it. That must have been awful. It was. But I survived it, and you'll survive this too. James looked at her seriously. The question is, what are you going to do now? Sophia shook her head. I honestly don't know. My friend offered to let me stay with her, but she has a small apartment and 2 roommates already. My parents want me to come home, but that feels like going backward. I need to start over somehow, but I don't even know where to begin. James was quiet for several minutes, and Sophia could see him thinking something through. Finally, he turned to her with an expression she couldn't quite read. This might sound crazy, he said slowly, but I have a proposition for you. Sophia raised an eyebrow. A proposition? I need a wife, James said simply. Not for love or romance, but for business and social reasons. My company deals with a lot of traditional clients who expect their business partners to be settled, family men. Being single has started to hurt my credibility and my ability to close deals. Sophia stared at him, sure she had misheard. You're asking me to marry you? We just met. I'm asking you to consider a business arrangement, James clarified. A marriage of convenience, if you will. You need stability and a fresh start. I need a wife who can handle social situations and business entertaining. We could help each other. The suggestion was so unexpected that Sophia didn't know how to respond. Part of her wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it, but another part of her was intrigued despite herself. You don't even know me, she pointed out. I know you were left at the altar today and you're handling it with more grace than most people would, James replied. I know you're beautiful, well-spoken, and clearly capable of planning major events. Those are exactly the qualities I need in a business partner. A business partner, Sophia repeated. Not a wife in the traditional sense. Exactly. We would maintain our own lives, our own space within the arrangement. No expectations beyond what we agree to up front. James paused. It would give you time to figure out what you want to do next, without having to worry about the practical things like housing and income. Sophia looked down at her ruined wedding dress, then back at this strange man who had appeared in her darkest hour with an offer that was either completely insane or exactly what she needed. The next morning, Sophia woke up in Rebecca's cramped apartment, momentarily confused about where she was. Then the memories of the previous day came flooding back, and she felt the familiar ache in her chest. Tyler was gone. Her wedding was ruined. Her life was in shambles. But there was something else, something that had kept her awake most of the night. James Crawford's unexpected offer. She had told him she would think about it, and he had given her his business card before leaving her at the church. You're up early, Rebecca said, emerging from the tiny kitchen with 2 cups of coffee. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, Sophia admitted, accepting the coffee gratefully. But also, confused. She told Rebecca about James's proposition, watching her friend's eyes grow wider with each detail. Are you completely out of your mind? Rebecca asked when Sophia finished. You can't marry a stranger, Sophia. That's not a solution, that's jumping from one problem into a potentially bigger one. But what if it's not? Sophia said, surprising herself with how much she had apparently thought about this. What if it's exactly what I need right now? A chance to start over without having to worry about survival. What do you even know about this guy? He could be dangerous or crazy or... He's James Crawford, Sophia interrupted. I looked him up online this morning. He's legitimate, Rebecca. Crawford Industries is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's been featured in business magazines, he does charity work, there's never been any scandal associated with him. Rebecca set down her coffee cup hard. That doesn't mean he's not crazy, Sophia. Normal people don't propose marriage to strangers in church gardens. Normal people also don't get abandoned at the altar, Sophia replied quietly. Maybe this is my chance to take control of my life instead of just letting things happen to me. Before Rebecca could respond, Sophia's phone rang. She looked at the screen and felt her heart skip a beat. It was Tyler. Don't answer it, Rebecca said immediately. But Sophia was already sliding her finger across the screen. Hello? Sophia, thank God. Tyler's voice sounded strained, panicked. I've been trying to reach you since yesterday. Are you okay? Am I okay? Sophia's voice rose with disbelief. You left me at the altar, Tyler. In front of everyone we know. How exactly did you think I would be? I can explain everything, Tyler said quickly. I got scared, okay? It wasn't about you, it was about me. The commitment, the pressure, everything felt so permanent and I panicked. So you ran away, Sophia said, her voice deadly calm now. On our wedding day. Instead of talking to me, instead of being honest about your feelings, you just disappeared. I know it was wrong, Tyler continued, his words coming faster now. But I've had time to think and I realize what a mistake I made. I love you, Sophia. I want to marry you. We can reschedule, have a small ceremony, just us and our families. No, Sophia said, the word coming out stronger and clearer than she expected. What? I said no, Tyler. You had your chance to marry me and you chose to run instead. You don't get to come back now and pretend like nothing happened. But Sophia, I love you. If you loved me, you would have shown up yesterday, Sophia said, feeling a strange sense of power in her voice. If you loved me, you would have talked to me about your fears instead of leaving me standing there like a fool. She hung up before Tyler could respond, her hands shaking slightly. Rebecca was staring at her with a mixture of pride and concern. Good for you, Rebecca said softly. He doesn't deserve you. Sophia looked at James Crawford's business card, still sitting on the coffee table where she had left it the night before. I'm going to call him, she said. Sophia. I'm going to hear him out properly, Sophia continued. If I'm going to make a decision this big, I need to understand exactly what I'm agreeing to. An hour later, Sophia sat across from James Crawford in his downtown office. In the bright light of day, he was even more handsome than she remembered, but there was also something solid and dependable about him that she found reassuring. I'm glad you called, James said, offering her tea or coffee. I wasn't sure if you would. I almost didn't, Sophia admitted. My friend thinks I'm crazy for even considering this. She's probably right to be concerned, James said honestly. It's an unusual arrangement. But I think it could work for both of us if we set clear boundaries and expectations. What exactly would you expect from me? Sophia asked. James leaned back in his chair, his expression businesslike but kind. I attend a lot of business dinners, charity events, and social functions. I need someone who can handle those situations with grace and intelligence. You would be my wife in public, but we would maintain separate private lives. Separate bedrooms? Sophia asked, feeling her cheeks flush slightly. Absolutely. This would be a marriage of convenience, not a romantic relationship. We would be partners, friends hopefully, but nothing more unless we both decided otherwise. And how long would this arrangement last? We could start with a year, James suggested. That would give you time to get back on your feet, figure out what you want to do with your life. If it's working for both of us after a year, we could extend it. Sophia considered this. What about money? I can't contribute financially. You wouldn't need to, James interrupted. I would provide for all your needs, housing, clothing, anything you require. In return, you would fulfill the social obligations that come with being my wife. This feels very one-sided, Sophia said. What do you really get out of this? James was quiet for a moment, then smiled sadly. Honestly? Companionship. My life has become very lonely, Sophia. I work constantly, I don't trust easily anymore after what happened with my former partner, and I don't have time for traditional dating. This arrangement would give us both what we need without the complications of romance. There was something in his voice that touched Sophia's heart. Here was a successful, handsome man who seemed to have everything, but who was just as lonely as she was. If I agreed to this, she said slowly, when would we do it? As soon as possible, James replied. A small, private ceremony. Nothing like the wedding you planned before. I understand that would be too painful. Just a legal formality. Sophia thought about Tyler's phone call that morning, about his assumption that she would just take him back after what he had done. She thought about the pitying looks from the wedding guests, about starting over with nothing, about being dependent on her friends and family for help. Okay, she said quietly. James blinked as if he hadn't expected her to agree. Okay. Yes, Sophia said, feeling more certain with each word. I'll marry you, James Crawford. But I have one condition. What's that? If either of us falls in love with someone else or wants out of the arrangement for any reason, we end it cleanly and honestly. No running away, no disappearing. We talk to each other. James smiled, and Sophia realized it was the first genuine smile she had seen from him. I think I can promise you that. 2 weeks later, Sophia stood in the foyer of James Crawford's mansion, trying not to feel overwhelmed by the sheer size and elegance of what was now supposed to be her home. The wedding had been exactly as promised, small, simple, and purely legal. Only Rebecca and James's assistant had served as witnesses at the courthouse ceremony. Your room is upstairs, second door on the right, James said, carrying her single suitcase. I hope you'll be comfortable. The room he showed her was larger than Rebecca's entire apartment, with a king-sized bed, a sitting area, and windows that overlooked a beautifully manicured garden. There was even a walk-in closet that was currently empty except for the few clothes she had managed to retrieve from the apartment she had shared with Tyler. It's beautiful, Sophia said honestly. But I feel like I'm imposing. You're not imposing, James assured her. You're fulfilling your part of our agreement. Speaking of which, we have our first test this Saturday night. What kind of test? The Hartman Foundation Charity Gala. It's one of the biggest social events of the year, and several of my most important clients will be there. James looked slightly apologetic. I know it's asking a lot for your first public appearance as my wife, but it's fine, Sophia interrupted. That's why I'm here, right? Over the next few days, Sophia tried to settle into her new life. The house was beautiful but felt enormous and empty. James left early for work each morning and often didn't return until well into the evening. When they did see each other, their conversations were polite but careful, both of them still trying to figure out the boundaries of their unusual relationship. On Thursday, James surprised her by coming home early with shopping bags. I hope you don't mind, he said, looking slightly embarrassed. I bought you a dress for Saturday night. I wasn't sure about the size, but I can return it if it doesn't fit. Sophia opened the bag to find an elegant midnight blue gown that was exactly her size. The style was sophisticated but not too revealing, and the color would complement her skin tone perfectly. How did you know my size? She asked. James's cheeks reddened slightly. I may have asked Rebecca. I hope that's okay. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched Sophia more than she expected. It's perfect. Thank you. Saturday evening arrived faster than Sophia had anticipated. She spent an hour getting ready, styling her hair and applying makeup with more care than she had taken with anything since her abandoned wedding day. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman who appeared confident and elegant, even if she didn't feel that way inside. James was waiting for her at the bottom of the stairs, wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo. When he saw her, his expression changed to something that looked almost like surprise. You look stunning, he said quietly. Thank you, Sophia replied, smoothing her dress nervously. You clean up pretty well yourself. In the car on the way to the gala, James briefed her on the key people they would be meeting. The Hartmans are old money, very traditional. Mrs. Hartman especially values family and stability in the people she does business with. Richard Torres is there. He's considering a major contract with my company, but he's been hesitant because he thinks I'm not settled enough. No pressure at all, Sophia said dryly, and was pleased when James laughed. Just be yourself, he said. That's all I need. The gala was held at the city's most exclusive hotel, with hundreds of elegantly dressed guests mingling in a ballroom that sparkled with crystal chandeliers. Sophia felt a moment of panic as they entered, wondering if she was really ready for this. Then James offered her his arm, and something about his steady presence calmed her nerves. Mr. Crawford. A distinguished older woman approached them, her eyes bright with curiosity. How wonderful to see you. And this must be your wife. Mrs. Hartman, I'd like you to meet Sophia, James said smoothly. Sophia, this is Eleanor Hartman. It's such a pleasure to meet you, Sophia said, extending her hand with a smile she hoped looked genuine. The pleasure is mine, dear, Mrs. Hartman replied, studying Sophia with sharp but kind eyes. James has been so secretive about his personal life. Tell me, how did you two meet? Sophia felt a moment of panic. They hadn't discussed their cover story in detail. But James stepped in smoothly. We met during a difficult time in Sophia's life, he said, his voice warm. I was immediately struck by her strength and grace under pressure. It wasn't technically a lie, Sophia realized. And something about the way James said it, with genuine admiration in his voice, made her feel a little less like she was playing a role. The evening progressed better than Sophia had dared to hope. She found that the social skills she had developed in her previous job served her well in making conversation with James's business associates and their wives. She was genuinely interested in hearing about the charity work many of them were involved in, and several people complimented James on his choice of wife. You're a natural at this, James murmured during a quiet moment as they watched couples dancing. I'm just being polite, Sophia replied. But thank you. Everyone has been very welcoming. Richard Torres seems particularly impressed, James noted, nodding toward a man who had spent a significant portion of the evening talking with them. I think this contract might actually happen. As if summoned by their conversation, Torres approached them again. James, Sophia, I hope you're enjoying the evening, he said warmly. I wanted to tell you both how refreshing it is to meet a couple who clearly brings out the best in each other. Sophia felt a flutter of something, pride, maybe, or satisfaction at playing her role well. Sophia keeps me grounded, James said, and again, there was something in his voice that sounded genuine rather than rehearsed. Later, as they drove home in comfortable silence, Sophia reflected on the evening. She had expected to feel like a fraud, pretending to be something she wasn't. Instead, she had felt useful, needed, even appreciated. "Thank you," James said as they pulled into his driveway. "You were perfect tonight." "It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be," Sophia admitted. "Your colleagues are nice people." "They are. And they clearly adore you." James paused, then added quietly, "I can see why." Something in his tone made Sophia look at him more carefully, but his expression was unreadable in the dim light of the car. "Good night, James," she said softly. "Good night, Sophia." As she got ready for bed that night, Sophia found herself thinking about the evening with a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt in weeks. For the first time since Tyler had abandoned her, she felt like she had value, like she was contributing something meaningful to someone's life. It was a good feeling. Maybe this arrangement would work out better than either of them had expected. 3 weeks into their marriage, Sophia woke up feeling terrible. Her head was pounding, her throat was raw, and every muscle in her body ached. She had caught some kind of flu bug and it was hitting her hard. She managed to drag herself downstairs to make coffee, hoping the caffeine would help, but even the smell made her feel nauseous. James found her sitting at the kitchen island with her head in her hands. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice immediately filled with concern. "Just a little under the weather," Sophia said, though her voice came out as barely a whisper. "I'll be fine." James studied her face, taking in her pale complexion and the way she was clearly struggling to stay upright. "You look awful." "No offense." "None taken," Sophia croaked. "I feel awful." "Have you taken your temperature?" James asked, already moving toward the kitchen cabinet where he apparently kept a thermometer. "It's just a cold," Sophia protested weakly, but she allowed him to check her temperature anyway. 102.3, James read from the digital display, his frown deepening. "That's not just a cold, Sophia. You need to be in bed." "I can take care of myself," Sophia said, though the effort of speaking was exhausting. "I'm sure you can," James replied gently, "but you don't have to." Before Sophia could protest further, James had scooped her up in his arms and was carrying her back upstairs to her room. Under normal circumstances, she would have been mortified by the intimate gesture, but she felt too sick to care. He settled her back into bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. "I'm calling my doctor," he said. "That's not necessary." "Sophia, you have a high fever and you can barely speak." "It's necessary." James's tone was firm but kind. "Dr. Mitchell makes house calls. She'll be here within the hour." True to his word, Dr. Mitchell arrived shortly after and confirmed that Sophia had contracted a particularly nasty strain of the flu. She prescribed rest, fluids, and medication for the fever and body aches. "She'll need someone to check on her regularly," Dr. Mitchell told James as they stood outside Sophia's room. "The fever needs to be monitored, and she should be encouraged to drink fluids even if she doesn't feel like it." "I'll take care of her," James said without hesitation. After the doctor left, James returned to Sophia's room with a glass of water and the prescribed medication. "The doctor said you need to take these every 4 hours," he said, helping her sit up enough to swallow the pills. "You don't have to babysit me," Sophia said weakly. "Don't you have to work?" "Work can wait," James replied, adjusting her pillows. "You're my wife, Sophia. Taking care of you when you're sick isn't babysitting, it's what husbands do." The word wife sent a strange flutter through Sophia's chest, though she attributed it to the fever. This was supposed to be a business arrangement, but James was treating her like she was someone he actually cared about. Throughout the day, James checked on her every few hours, bringing her water, soup, and fresh fruit. He took her temperature regularly and made sure she was taking her medication on schedule. When she complained that she was too hot, he brought her a cool cloth for her forehead. When she got chills, he added an extra blanket. "You're going to get sick too," Sophia warned him during one of his visits. "I have an excellent immune system," James replied with a small smile. "Besides, someone needs to make sure you eat something." He had brought her homemade chicken soup from a local restaurant, and though Sophia protested that she wasn't hungry, James patiently encouraged her to have at least a few spoonfuls. "This is really good," she admitted after taking a small taste. "It's from that little place on 5th Street, James said. "My mother used to take me there when I was sick as a child." It was the first time James had mentioned his family, and Sophia found herself curious despite her illness. "Are your parents still alive?" James's expression grew sad. "My mother passed away 5 years ago. Cancer. My father died when I was in college." "I'm sorry," Sophia said sincerely. "That must have been very difficult." "It was. Especially my mother. She was the one person I could always count on no matter what." James paused, then added quietly, "She would have liked you." The comment surprised Sophia both because of its intimacy and because James seemed to mean it genuinely. By the second day Sophia's fever had broken, but she was still weak and exhausted. James continued to check on her regularly, even working from home so he wouldn't have to leave her alone. "You really don't have to do this," Sophia said as he brought her fresh orange juice and toast. "I'm feeling much better." "You're still recovering," James said firmly. "Dr. Mitchell said you need at least another day of rest." "But what about your work? I'm sure you have important meetings." "Nothing that can't be rescheduled or handled over the phone," James interrupted. "My assistant is perfectly capable of managing things for a few days." Sophia studied his face, looking for signs that he was just being polite or fulfilling some obligation. Instead, she saw genuine concern and care. "Why are you being so nice to me?" she asked quietly. James seemed surprised by the question. "What do you mean?" "This is supposed to be a business arrangement," Sophia said. "You're not getting anything out of taking care of me like this. There's no one here to impress, no social expectations to meet." James was quiet for a long moment, sitting on the edge of her bed. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than usual. "Maybe because it's been a long time since I had someone to take care of," he said. "And maybe because you're not just a business arrangement to me anymore, Sophia. You're a person I've come to care about." The honesty in his voice made Sophia's heart skip a beat. She had been so focused on maintaining the boundaries of their agreement that she hadn't noticed how those boundaries had begun to blur. "I care about you too," she admitted quietly. James smiled and it was warm and genuine. "Good. That makes this whole arrangement a lot more pleasant for both of us." On the third day, Sophia finally felt well enough to get dressed and come downstairs. She found James in his home office working at his computer, but he immediately stopped what he was doing when he saw her. "How are you feeling?" he asked, standing up to study her face. "Much better. Human again finally." Sophia smiled. "Thank you, James. For everything. I know taking care of a sick fake wife wasn't part of our deal." "There was nothing fake about it," James said seriously. "You were sick, you needed help, and I was glad I could provide it." Something in his tone made Sophia look at him more carefully. There was an intensity in his eyes that she hadn't seen before, a warmth that made her suddenly very aware of how close they were standing. "I should let you get back to work," she said, though she made no move to leave. "Actually," James said, "I was thinking of calling it a day. Would you like to have dinner together? Really together this time, not just me bringing you soup in bed." The invitation felt different from their usual polite interactions. More personal, more intimate. "I'd like that," Sophia said. That evening, they ate dinner at the small table in James's kitchen rather than the formal dining room they had used the few times they had eaten together before. The conversation flowed more easily than it ever had, ranging from books they had read to places they wanted to travel. "I always wanted to see Ireland," Sophia said as they finished their meal. "My grandmother was Irish and she used to tell me stories about the countryside there." "It's beautiful," James said. "I went there on business a few years ago and extended my trip just to see more of the country. The landscapes are incredible." "You'll have to tell me about it sometime," Sophia said. "I'd be happy to," James replied, and something in his voice suggested he meant more than just telling her about Ireland. As they cleaned up the dishes together, Sophia found herself thinking about how natural this felt. How easy it was to talk to James, how comfortable she felt in his presence. The loneliness that had consumed her since Tyler's abandonment seemed to have faded without her even noticing. "Thank you again," she said as they finished. "For taking care of me, I mean. It's been a long time since anyone has done that." "What about Tyler?" James asked, then immediately looked like he regretted the question. "I'm sorry, that's none of my business." "It's okay," Sophia said, surprising herself. "And to answer your question, Tyler was never very good at taking care of people when they were sick. He usually found reasons to stay away until I was better." James frowned. "That's not very supportive." "No, it wasn't," Sophia agreed. "I guess I just accepted it as part of who he was. But now, well, now I know what it feels like to have someone actually take care of me." "You deserve to be taken care of, Sophia," James said quietly. "You deserve someone who will be there for you when you need them." The sincerity in his voice brought tears to Sophia's eyes. "So do you," she said softly. They stood there for a moment, looking at each other, and Sophia felt something shift between them. The careful politeness of their arrangement was giving way to something deeper, something that felt dangerously close to real affection. The business trip to Chicago was supposed to be routine. James had to meet with potential investors for a new project, and Sophia would accompany him to a dinner with their wives and a charity luncheon. It was exactly the kind of public appearance their arrangement was designed for. But as they sat together on the plane, Sophia realized how much her feelings about these trips had changed. What had once felt like playing a role now felt natural, comfortable even. "Tell me about this project you're pitching," she said as James reviewed his presentation notes. "It's a sustainable energy initiative," James explained, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "We want to retrofit older office buildings with solar panels and more efficient heating and cooling systems. It's good for the environment and it saves money in the long run." Sophia found herself genuinely interested in his work in a way she never had been with Tyler's job. "That sounds amazing. Is there much interest in that kind of thing?" "More than you might think," James said. "Businesses are starting to realize that being environmentally responsible is also financially smart. The challenge is the upfront investment. Hence the investors you're meeting with," Sophia said. "Exactly." James smiled at her. "You pick things up quickly." "I used to work in marketing," Sophia reminded him. "I understand business presentations." "That's right. What kind of marketing did you do?" It was a simple question, but it made Sophia realize that despite living together for over a month, they still knew relatively little about each other's histories. "Consumer products mostly," she said. "I worked for a firm that handled everything from household cleaners to luxury cosmetics. It was interesting work, but I left when Tyler and I got engaged. He thought it would be better if I focused on planning the wedding and getting ready for our new life together." James frowned. "You gave up your career for him?" "It seemed like the right thing to do at the time," Sophia said, though she could hear the doubt in her own voice. "Tyler made enough money to support both of us, and he said he wanted to take care of me." "But you enjoyed your work?" "I loved it," Sophia admitted. "I was good at it too. I had ideas for campaigns that really worked, and I was being considered for a promotion before I left." "Do you miss it?" The question caught Sophia off guard. She had been so focused on the immediate crisis of Tyler's abandonment and her new arrangement with James that she hadn't really thought about her career. "Yes," she said slowly. "I think I do miss it." "You should consider going back to it," James said. "Once you've figured out what you want to do with your life, I mean. Our arrangement doesn't have to control every aspect of your life," James interrupted gently. "If you want to work, you should work. We can figure out how to balance it with the social obligations." The conversation stayed with Sophia throughout the trip. In Chicago, she found herself paying more attention to the business discussions, asking thoughtful questions about James's projects, and offering insights that seemed to genuinely interest him. At the investor dinner, she was seated next to Margaret Chin, the wife of one of the potential investors. Margaret was a lawyer who had built her own successful practice, and Sophia found their conversation fascinating. "I love what your husband is proposing," Margaret said over dessert. "It's exactly the kind of forward-thinking project we need more of. And you seem to understand the business side of it quite well." "Thank you," Sophia said. "I find it genuinely interesting." "Have you ever considered working in the environmental sector?" Margaret asked. "There's a real need for people who understand both the business and marketing sides of green initiatives." After dinner, as they walked back to their hotel, James was unusually quiet. "The meeting went well, don't you think?" Sophia asked. "Very well," James agreed. "I think they're going to fund the project." "That's wonderful. You should be celebrating." James stopped walking and turned to look at her. "I keep thinking about what Margaret Chin said to you about working in environmental marketing." "All that." She was just being polite. "No, she wasn't," James said seriously. "She was right. You do understand the business side of things and you ask the right questions. You'd be good at that kind of work." Something in his tone made Sophia study his face more carefully. "Is that a problem?" "The opposite," James said. "I was impressed by how engaged you were tonight. And I was thinking, wondering if you might be interested in working with me." "With you?" "For Crawford Industries. We're expanding into the environmental sector, and we'll need someone who understands marketing and can help us communicate our message effectively." James paused. "It would be a real job, Sophia. Not just part of our arrangement. You'd be hired on your own merits." The offer was so unexpected that Sophia didn't know how to respond. "You want to hire me?" "I want to offer you the opportunity to interview for a position," James clarified. "If you're interested, if you think it's something you'd want to do." They had reached their hotel, and they stood in the lobby for a moment, other guests flowing around them as Sophia processed what James was suggesting. "That would be complicated," she said finally. "Working together and being married, even if it's just an arrangement." "It might be," James agreed. "But it might also be exactly what we both need." That night, Sophia lay in her hotel bed thinking about James's offer. The idea of getting back into marketing excited her more than she had expected. And the chance to work on projects that actually mattered, that could make a difference in the world, was incredibly appealing. But there was something else, something she was only beginning to admit to herself. The thought of working closely with James, of spending even more time with him, didn't feel like a complication. It felt like an opportunity. The next morning at breakfast, James seemed nervous, which was unusual for him. "Have you thought about what I said last night?" he asked as they waited for their flight. "I have," Sophia said. "And I'd like to know more about the position." James's face lit up with relief and something that looked like genuine excitement. "Really? Really? But I have one condition." "What's that?" "If we're going to work together, we need to be completely honest with each other about our professional relationship versus our personal arrangement," Sophia said. "I don't want there to be any confusion about what I've earned versus what I've been given." "Agreed," James said immediately. "You'll be hired based on your qualifications, not our marriage. And if the job doesn't work out, it won't affect our personal arrangement." As their plane took off, Sophia looked out the window at the city falling away below them and felt something she hadn't experienced in months: excitement about the future. For the first time since Tyler had abandoned her, she was thinking about what she wanted to do with her life rather than just how to survive. And increasingly, what she wanted seemed to involve James Crawford in ways that went far beyond their original business arrangement. Sophia's first day at Crawford Industries was both nerve-wracking and exhilarating. James had insisted that she interview with the marketing director and other department heads just like any other candidate, and she had gotten the job on her own merits. Now, 6 weeks after their trip to Chicago, she was starting fresh in a career she was genuinely excited about. "Welcome to the team," said Patricia Rodriguez, the marketing director, as she showed Sophia to her office. "James has told us great things about your experience and ideas." Sophia's office was small but bright, with windows overlooking the city. She spent her first morning reviewing materials about Crawford Industries' environmental initiatives and was impressed by the scope and ambition of their projects. Around noon, James appeared in her doorway with 2 cups of coffee. "How's your first day going?" he asked, offering her one of the cups. "Really well," Sophia said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "This work is fascinating. I had no idea how many different environmental projects you were involved in." "We're just getting started," James said, settling into the chair across from her desk. "The market for sustainable business solutions is huge, but we need to do a better job of communicating our value proposition to potential clients." "I've been reading through some of your existing marketing materials," Sophia said, "and I think I see the problem. You're focusing too much on the technical aspects and not enough on the business benefits." James leaned forward with interest. "What do you mean?" "Well, take the solar panel retrofitting project. Your current brochure spends 3 pages explaining how the technology works, but only 1 paragraph on how much money it will save the client." Sophia pulled out the brochure she had been reviewing. Business owners don't care about the technical details. They care about return on investment, operational savings, and maybe the public relations benefits of being seen as environmentally responsible. "That makes perfect sense," James said, looking impressed. "Do you have ideas for how to refocus the messaging?" For the next hour, they discussed Sophia's preliminary ideas for repositioning Crawford Industries' environmental division. James listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and clearly valued her input. "You're going to be a huge asset to this company," he said as he prepared to leave for his next meeting. "I hope so," Sophia replied. "It feels good to be working again, to be contributing something meaningful." "It suits you," James said, pausing in the doorway. "You light up when you talk about this work." After he left, Sophia found herself smiling as she returned to her research. It had been a long time since she felt this confident and capable. Working together turned out to be easier than either of them had expected. They maintained complete professionalism during business hours, with James treating Sophia exactly like any other employee. But their evenings at home became more relaxed and intimate as they shared stories about their days and collaborated on projects. "The Peterson Group wants to see a full presentation next week," James said one evening as they cooked dinner together. It had become a routine they both enjoyed, sharing the tasks and talking about their work. "I'll have the new marketing materials ready by Friday," Sophia assured him. "I think they're going to love the ROI projections." "I know they will. Your work has been incredible, Sophia." James paused in chopping vegetables to look at her. "I don't just mean as my wife or as part of our arrangement. I mean as a professional. You're really talented at this." The praise meant more to Sophia than she cared to admit. Thank you. It feels good to be using my brain again, to be building something. Is this what you want to do long term? James asked. Environmental marketing, I mean? Sophia considered the question as she stirred the sauce they were making. I think so. I love the work and I love feeling like what I do makes a difference. Plus, she added with a smile, I have a pretty great boss. James laughed. Just pretty great? Okay, maybe more than pretty great, Sophia admitted, and something in her tone made James look at her more closely. They were standing close together in the kitchen, and Sophia suddenly became very aware of the warmth of his body next to hers, the way his eyes seemed to search her face. Sophia, James said quietly, and there was something in his voice that made her heart beat faster. Yes. I need to tell you something. This arrangement we have, this marriage of convenience. He paused as if trying to find the right words. It's not feeling very convenient anymore. What do you mean? Sophia asked, though she thought she knew. I mean, I've stopped thinking of you as my business partner wife and started thinking of you as just my wife. James's voice was soft but intense. I wake up looking forward to seeing you. I think about you during the day. When you smile, it makes me happy in a way that has nothing to do with our agreement. Sophia felt her breath catch. James? I'm falling in love with you, he said simply. I don't know when it started, but I know it's real. And I needed you to know that even if it complicates everything. For a moment, Sophia couldn't speak. The confession she had been hoping to hear but hadn't dared to expect hung in the air between them. It doesn't complicate anything, she said finally. Because I'm falling in love with you too. James's face transformed with relief and joy. Really? Really, Sophia confirmed, stepping closer to him. You've been kinder to me, more caring and supportive than anyone has ever been. You make me feel valued and appreciated and loved. You are loved, James said, reaching up to cup her face gently in his hands. So very loved. When he kissed her, it was nothing like the brief, formal kiss they had shared at their courthouse wedding. This was warm and tender and full of all the feelings they had been holding back for weeks. So what happens now? Sophia asked when they finally broke apart. Now we stop pretending this is just an arrangement, James said, his arms still around her. Now we see what it's like to be married for real. That night, for the first time since their wedding, James didn't go to his own room. They talked until late into the night, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. They talked about Tyler and James's former business partner, about the pain of betrayal and the healing power of trust. I never thought I'd be able to trust anyone completely again, James admitted as they lay together in the dark. Neither did I, Sophia said, tracing circles on his chest with her finger. But somehow trusting you feels like the easiest thing in the world. I love you, Sophia Crawford, James said, and the sound of her married name on his lips made her heart sing. I love you too, James Crawford, she replied. My husband. The word husband had never sounded so perfect. 3 months into their new relationship, Sophia was happier than she had ever been. Her work at Crawford Industries was thriving, her marriage with James had blossomed into something beautiful and real, and she had finally begun to feel like her life was moving in the right direction. That's when Tyler showed up. Sophia was leaving the Crawford Industries building after work when she saw him waiting by her car. For a moment she thought she was imagining things. But no, it was definitely Tyler, looking much the same as he had on their almost wedding day, except perhaps more desperate. Sophia, he said, stepping toward her as she approached her car. Thank God. I wasn't sure you'd see me. What are you doing here, Tyler? Sophia's voice was calm, but her heart was racing. She hadn't seen or heard from him since that phone call the day after their failed wedding. I needed to see you, Tyler said, his eyes pleading. I've been trying to reach you for months, but your phone number has been disconnected, and you moved out of our apartment. I have a new life now, Sophia said simply. You made that necessary when you abandoned me at the altar. I know, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life, Tyler said quickly. But Sophia, I've had time to think, to figure out what really matters. I made the biggest mistake of my life when I walked away from you. Sophia looked at him carefully. He seemed thinner than she remembered, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Tyler, it's been over 4 months. You can't just show up and expect. I know it's been a long time, Tyler interrupted. But I needed to understand why I ran, needed to work through my commitment issues. I've been seeing a therapist, Sophia. I've been working on myself. Despite everything, Sophia felt a flicker of the old compassion she had once felt for Tyler. I'm glad you're getting help. But that doesn't change what happened. I know I hurt you, Tyler continued, moving closer. I know I destroyed your trust and humiliated you in front of everyone we know. But I love you, Sophia. I've always loved you and I'm ready to prove it now. Tyler. I know you probably hate me, he said desperately. But I also know you loved me once. Real love doesn't just disappear, does it? We had 3 years together, Sophia. 3 good years. That has to count for something. Sophia felt a confusing mix of emotions. Anger at Tyler for what he had put her through, sadness for the relationship they had lost, and something else. Relief, maybe, that she felt none of the devastating heartbreak she might have expected to feel seeing him again. You're right, she said quietly. I did love you. But Tyler, that was 4 months ago. A lot has changed since then. What do you mean? Tyler asked, and for the first time, he seemed to notice her professional attire, the confidence in her posture, the way she carried herself differently than she had when they were together. I mean, I have a new life now. A job I love, a purpose, a future that makes me happy. That's great, Tyler said, though he looked confused. But that doesn't mean we can't have a future together too. I've changed, Sophia. I'm ready for commitment now, ready for marriage and everything that comes with it. Sophia took a deep breath. Tyler, I'm already married. The words hit Tyler like a physical blow. He actually stepped backward, his face going pale. What? I got married 3 months ago, Sophia said gently but firmly. To who? Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. To a man who was there for me when I needed someone most, Sophia said. A man who has never given me reason to doubt his commitment or his love. Tyler stared at her in shock. But we were supposed to get married. You and I, we were supposed to spend our lives together. We were supposed to do a lot of things, Sophia agreed. But you chose to walk away from all of that. I made a mistake. Tyler's voice rose with desperation. People make mistakes, Sophia. That doesn't mean our entire relationship meant nothing. You're right, Sophia said. Our relationship did mean something. It taught me what I don't want in a partner. It taught me the difference between someone who says they love you and someone who actually shows it every day. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. Please, Sophia. Don't do this. Don't throw away everything we had because I got scared one day. I'm not throwing anything away, Sophia said firmly. I'm choosing something better. I'm choosing someone who would never, ever leave me standing alone when I needed them most. Who is he? Tyler asked, his voice broken. This man you married? His name is James Crawford and he's everything you never were, Sophia said. He's reliable, supportive, and kind. He makes me feel valued and appreciated every single day. He would never abandon me, Tyler. Never. Tyler stared at her for a long moment, and Sophia could see the exact moment when he realized he had truly lost her. Do you love him? With all my heart, Sophia answered without hesitation. The certainty in her voice seemed to break something in Tyler. He sat down heavily on the hood of a nearby car, his head in his hands. I've lost you forever, haven't I? You lost me the day you walked away from our wedding, Sophia said, not unkindly. I'm sorry, Tyler. I really am. But you can't undo the choice you made. What if I hadn't run? Tyler asked desperately. What if I had married you that day? Would we have been happy? Sophia considered the question seriously. I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe for a while. But Tyler, the man who could walk away from someone he claimed to love on their wedding day? That's not the kind of man I want to spend my life with. James would never do that to me. Tyler looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes. I suppose there's nothing I can say to change your mind? Nothing, Sophia confirmed. I'm happy, Tyler. Truly happy in a way I'm not sure I ever was with you. Please don't try to take that away from me. Tyler stood up slowly, looking defeated. I suppose I should say I'm happy for you, but I can't. I'm miserable without you, Sophia. I think I always will be. I hope that's not true, Sophia said sincerely. I hope you find someone who makes you happy, someone you'll never want to run away from. There's no one like you, Tyler said sadly. You're right, Sophia agreed. And there's no one like James either. That's why we're perfect for each other. Tyler nodded slowly, finally seeming to accept that he had truly lost her. I guess this is goodbye then. I guess it is, Sophia said. Take care of yourself, Tyler. Get the help you need. Tyler walked away without looking back, and Sophia watched him go with a sense of closure she hadn't expected to feel. When she got in her car and started driving home to James, she realized that seeing Tyler again had only confirmed what she already knew. She had made the right choice. James was her future, her real love, her true husband. Tyler was just a painful memory from a life she no longer wanted. That evening, Sophia sat in her car in the driveway of James's house, their house. She corrected herself, trying to decide whether to tell James about Tyler's unexpected appearance. Part of her wanted to keep it to herself, to not bring the shadows of her past into the bright happiness of her present. But she and James had built their relationship on honesty, and she wasn't about to compromise that now. She found James in his study, working on his laptop, but he looked up with a smile the moment she appeared in the doorway. "You're late," he said, closing the laptop and standing to greet her with a kiss. "I was starting to worry." "I'm sorry," Sophia said, accepting his embrace gratefully. "Something unexpected happened after work." James immediately picked up on the tension in her voice. "What kind of unexpected?" "Tyler showed up," Sophia said simply. James went very still. "Tyler? Your ex-fiancé Tyler?" "Yes." Sophia stepped back so she could see James's face. "He was waiting by my car when I left the office." "What did he want?" James's voice was carefully controlled, but Sophia could see the tightness around his eyes. "To apologize. To try to win me back." Sophia took James's hands in hers. "He says he's been in therapy, that he's worked through his commitment issues and is ready to marry me now." James was quiet for a long moment, studying their joined hands. When he looked up, his expression was carefully neutral. "And what did you tell him?" "I told him I was already married to someone I love," Sophia said firmly. "I told him it was too late." Some of the tension left James's shoulders, but not all of it. "How do you feel about seeing him again?" It was such a James question, thoughtful, caring about her feelings rather than just his own fears. "Sad, I think," Sophia said honestly. "Sad about the time we wasted, sad about the pain we caused each other. But also, relieved." "Relieved?" "Relieved that I felt nothing when I saw him," Sophia explained. "No longing, no regret, no wish that things had been different. Just nothing. It confirmed that I've completely moved on." James nodded slowly. "I have to ask, did any part of you consider his offer?" Sophia could hear the vulnerability in his voice, despite his attempt to sound casual. "James, look at me." He met her eyes and she could see the fear there, carefully hidden but unmistakable. "Tyler had 3 years to prove he was ready for commitment," she said firmly. 3 years to show me he could be trusted with my heart. Instead, he abandoned me on what should have been the happiest day of my life. You've had 4 months, and in that time, you've shown me more love, more support, more genuine care than he ever did. But you loved him once," James said quietly. "You were planning to spend your life with him." "I thought I loved him," Sophia corrected. "But I was wrong about what love really looks like. Love doesn't run away when things get scary. Love doesn't leave you standing alone when you need it most. Love is what you do, James. Every day in 1,000 small ways." James searched her face. "Are you sure? Really sure? Because if there's any part of you that thinks you might be happier with him—" "Stop," Sophia interrupted, cupping his face in her hands. "James Crawford, you are the love of my life. Not because we have a convenient arrangement, not because you rescued me from a bad situation, but because you are the kindest, most honorable, most wonderful man I have ever known. I choose you. I will always choose you." James closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. "I was terrified," he admitted. "When you said he wanted you back, I was terrified that I was going to lose you." "You're never going to lose me," Sophia said softly. "I promise you that. What if he comes back? What if he keeps trying to convince you? Then I'll keep telling him the same thing. I'm married to the man I love, and nothing is going to change that." Sophia kissed him gently. "You have my whole heart, James. Tyler can't take that away because it was never his to begin with." James held her close, and Sophia could feel some of the last tension leaving his body. "I love you so much," he murmured against her hair. "I love you too," she replied. "More than I ever thought possible." They stood there in comfortable silence for a few minutes, holding each other and enjoying the simple pleasure of being together. "There's something else," Sophia said eventually. "What?" "Seeing Tyler today made me realize something important." She pulled back to look at James again. "Our arrangement, our marriage of convenience, it was never really about convenience, was it?" James looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I mean we both could have found other solutions to our problems," Sophia said. "You could have hired an actress to play your wife at business functions. I could have stayed with friends or family while I figured out my next steps. But we didn't want those solutions. We wanted each other," James said slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "We wanted each other," Sophia confirmed. "From that first night in the church garden, we were both looking for something real. We just weren't ready to admit it yet." James smiled, the first real smile she had seen from him since she mentioned Tyler's visit. So you're saying our marriage of convenience was actually fate? I'm saying our marriage of convenience was actually love, Sophia corrected. We just needed time to recognize it. Well then, James said, pulling her close again, I think we should celebrate. Celebrate what? The fact that Tyler's reappearance has only made us more certain about what we have together, James said. The fact that we've survived our first real test as a couple. The fact that we're not a marriage of convenience anymore, we're just a marriage. Just a marriage, Sophia repeated, liking the sound of it. I think I like that better than our original arrangement. Much better, James agreed and kissed her like he meant to keep doing it for the rest of their lives. Later that night, as they lay in bed together, Sophia felt a deep sense of peace. Tyler's return had been unsettling, but it had also been necessary. It had forced her to examine her feelings and make a conscious choice about her future. And she had chosen James, completely and without reservation. No more ghosts from the past, she murmured against James's chest. No more fear about the future, James replied, stroking her hair. Just us, Sophia said. Just us, James agreed. Forever. 6 months later, Sophia stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the skirt of her cream-colored dress. It was nothing like the elaborate white gown she had worn to her first failed wedding attempt. This dress was simple, elegant, and chosen for a ceremony that would be filled with genuine love rather than nervous hope. Are you ready? Rebecca asked from behind her. Sophia's best friend had been thrilled when Sophia had asked her to be her maid of honor for the second time, especially since this wedding would actually happen. More than ready, Sophia said, turning to smile at Rebecca. I can't wait to marry him. It's so different from last time, Rebecca observed. You seem completely calm. Because I am, Sophia said. There's no doubt in my mind about James, no fear that he might change his mind or run away. He's the most reliable man I've ever known. The ceremony was being held in the same church garden where James had first found Sophia on her worst day. But today the garden was decorated with white roses and soft lighting, transformed into something magical rather than melancholy. As Sophia walked down the aisle with her father, she saw James waiting for her at a simple arch covered in flowers. He was wearing a dark suit and the most radiant smile she had ever seen. When their eyes met, she felt her heart overflow with happiness. You look beautiful, James said softly as she joined him at the altar. So do you, she replied, taking his hands in hers. Father Martinez, the same priest who had witnessed her humiliation months before, now beamed at both of them as he began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, he said, we are gathered here today to celebrate the union of James and Sophia, two people who have found love in the most unexpected of circumstances. As the priest spoke about love, commitment, and the sacred bond of marriage, Sophia found herself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this moment. The pain of Tyler's abandonment, the practical arrangement that had brought her and James together, the slow growth of friendship into love, and the certainty that had come with Tyler's return, all of it had led to this perfect moment. When it came time for vows, James went first. Sophia, he said, his voice strong and clear, when I found you in this garden 8 months ago, I thought I was offering you a practical solution to a difficult problem. I had no idea that I was actually finding the missing piece of my own heart. You have brought joy, laughter, and love into my life in ways I never thought possible. You make me want to be a better man every single day. I promise to love you, support you, and stand by your side through whatever life brings us. I promise to never run away when things get difficult, and to always choose you every day for the rest of my life. Sophia felt tears of happiness streaming down her cheeks as she began her own vows. James, you saved me in every way a person can be saved. Not just from a bad situation, but from believing that I wasn't worthy of real love. You showed me what it means to be truly cared for, to have someone who puts my needs alongside their own, who celebrates my successes and comforts me in my failures. You gave me back my confidence, my career, and most importantly, my faith in love itself. I promise to love you with everything I have, to support your dreams as you have supported mine, and to choose you every day for the rest of our lives together. When Father Martinez pronounced them husband and wife, James kissed Sophia with a tenderness that made every guest smile through their tears. Ladies and gentlemen, the priest announced, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. James Crawford for real this time. The reception was held in the garden of James's house, with twinkling lights strung between the trees and tables set up on the lawn. It was intimate and warm, filled with the people who had supported them both through their individual struggles and celebrated their love. During dinner, James stood to make a toast. 8 months ago, I was a lonely man who thought he had everything figured out, he began. I thought I could solve my personal problems with a business arrangement, that I could find companionship without risking my heart. Sophia taught me that the best things in life can't be arranged or negotiated, they have to be felt, lived, and chosen every single day. He turned to Sophia, his eyes shining with love. You are my greatest blessing, my dearest friend, and the love of my life. Here's to our real beginning. As the evening progressed, Sophia found herself constantly amazed by how different this celebration felt from the wedding she had planned with Tyler. That event had been about impressing others, about creating the perfect image of happiness. This celebration was about genuine joy, about two people who had found real love and wanted to share that happiness with the people they cared about. I have something for you, James said as they swayed together during their first dance as a properly married couple. What is it? Sophia asked. James pulled a small wrapped box from his jacket pocket. I know we already exchanged rings, but I wanted to give you something special. Sophia opened the box to find a delicate necklace with a small charm shaped like a key. It's the key to my heart, James said softly. Though you've had that for months already. It's perfect, Sophia said, turning so he could fasten it around her neck. I love it. I love you. I love you too, Mrs. Crawford, James replied, and the name sounded even more perfect than it had the first time. As the evening wound down and their guests began to leave, Sophia and James found themselves alone in the garden where they had first met. The same stone bench where she had sat in her ruined wedding dress was now surrounded by the remnants of their celebration. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Tyler hadn't run away? James asked as they sat together on the bench. Sometimes, Sophia admitted. But I always come to the same conclusion. Which is? That if Tyler hadn't abandoned me, I never would have found you, she said simply. And that would have been a tragedy. James smiled and pulled her closer. So you're saying Tyler did us a favor? I'm saying everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to, Sophia replied. I needed to have my heart broken by someone who didn't deserve it so I could recognize real love when I found it. And I needed to admit that I was lonely and that business arrangements are no substitute for genuine connection, James added. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the last of the cleanup from their wedding reception and thinking about the future they would build together. So what happens now? Sophia asked, echoing the question she had asked on the night they first kissed. Now we live happily ever after, James said simply. We build our careers together, maybe start a family someday and grow old knowing that we found exactly what we were looking for. I like that plan, Sophia said, snuggling closer to her husband. I like it very much. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the Crawford Industries conference room, presenting a marketing proposal to their biggest client yet. As she concluded her presentation, she caught James's eye across the room and saw the pride and love there that never failed to make her heart flutter. After the meeting, which had gone perfectly, James cornered her in the hallway. That was brilliant, he said, spinning her around in his arms. You're brilliant. We're a good team, Sophia said, laughing as he set her down. The best team, James agreed, then looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Speaking of teams, how would you feel about adding a new member to ours? Sophia's eyes widened as she understood what he was asking. Are you saying? I'm saying I think we're ready to start a family, James said softly. If you wanted, that is. Sophia's answer was to kiss him right there in the hallway, not caring who might see them. I'll take that as a yes, James said when they broke apart, both of them grinning. That's definitely a yes, Sophia confirmed. As they walked hand in hand back to their offices, Sophia reflected on how completely her life had changed since that terrible day when Tyler had left her at the altar. She had thought her life was ending, but it had actually been beginning. She had found not just love, but purpose, partnership, and a future brighter than anything she had ever imagined. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Sophia had learned that lesson the hard way, but she wouldn't change a single moment of her journey if it meant not ending up exactly where she was. In love, fulfilled, and ready for whatever came next with the man who had saved her in every way that mattered. I love you, Mr. Crawford, she said as they reached her office. I love you too, Mrs. Crawford, James replied. Forever and always. And they both knew he meant it. Dear listeners, thank you so much for taking this emotional journey with Sophia and James. Their story shows us that sometimes life's biggest disappointments can lead to our greatest blessings. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did you think of Sophia's choice between Tyler and James? Which moment in their love story touched your heart the most? Do you believe in second chances at love after heartbreak? Have you ever experienced a situation where something terrible led to something wonderful? Your thoughts and experiences mean the world to me, so please share your stories below.